Hi there, I'm Amy or AWayfaringFrog and welcome back to the channel. And welcome if you're new here. Today we're doing another festive themed build. Last week I tackled a toy shop which I designed with Christmas in mind, and this time we're doing a very Christmassy themed cottage. So again, I do usually like to build these kinds of builds when it's a snowy one in just normal summer first, so it will be a bit later in the video that I end up changing the in-game weather to winter, so it will become very snowy and very magical. I am also building this in Henford on Bagley. I really love this world. I think it's so much fun. It probably helps that I'm from the UK and it's inspired by the UK, but I thought the style of house that I was going for really suited it. The lot that I'm building this on is one Cobblebottom street, and it's just in the main area of Henford on Bagley, so you can access the bar easily from here. All of the town events, such as the various fairs that are on each week, are also here, and then Agnes and Agatha Crumplebottom are really close by, so you can easily go and grab whatever you need from them. I was actually browsing Pinterest for inspiration before I decided to tackle this build, and originally I discovered more of a one-story sized building which I really wanted to have a go at. I thought it was so cute, but sadly it just wasn't working in The Sims 4. I guess just the limitations of the wall heights and roofing pieces just really didn't work out, so I totally scrapped that and then discovered this one. So I think it came out really nicely and I'm very happy with it, so I really hope you like it too. I did use these more red accents from the Cottage Living expansion pack just to make it again a bit more Christmassy, and I will go ahead a bit later on and use the seasons decoration box to add in the lights. I really have a love-hate relationship with that box. For builds like this, it's so much fun. I really like being able to play around with decorating the exterior of my Sims builds. However, I don't like how it sometimes just randomly places. If you're at a bar or something, they might just have the most ridiculous love heart bunting everywhere, even if it's in, say, the werewolf world, and it just doesn't really tie into the industrial look of that place. So it becomes a bit annoying. But it's very fun for builds like this, where you want to have a bit of extra decoration and a little bit more feature on the exterior of a build. It's also a bit buggy with for rent builds, because if you have a lot where you've got several rental rooms or buildings on the same lot, they'll all have the same decorations no matter what. So you can't custom place decorations on each individual build. It will just put the fairy lights across each of them on that lot, which is a bit of a shame if you were hoping to do something a little bit different. At this stage though, the build has pretty much come together. You'll see the front is kind of odd. I really wanted to try and make this feature where the roof at the front of the build, the area where you can access the porch, kind of overhangs into the front of the main part of the building. So it's a little bit cut off there and a little bit skinnier as a result. I just thought it was quite a fun feature, and it was quite difficult at first just because it almost looked unintentionally not symmetrical, so I had to pull it over a bit more to make it look a bit more intentional. So hopefully you agree that it looks okay. Also, the floor plan here, I always love to point out when a floor plan goes well, because I'm usually so bad at them, but it was really nice and easy to floor plan this one. The first attempt was the one that I ended up sticking with. And this wallpaper from Cottage Living, it's got those nice little details on the edge, but it did mean that I had to extend the back part of the build out, because if you try and use that wallpaper on a one tile section, it doesn't put the corner detailing on, which is such a shame. Again, I am going to beg the Sims team to just give us those pieces separately. We can put them where we want them that way. But luckily it did end up working very well for this build. Usually I try and hide the corner that wasn't working out with a tree or something, but all of them worked out nicely here. And then for the fireplace, I went for this more wide brick from the Cottage Living pack instead, just as a bit of contrast so it wasn't all the same colour. I'm also looking around now in the other builds around in this world, thinking how cute it would have been if I'd done a thatched roof. It was going to get covered by snow anyway, so I wasn't really thinking about that, but I would like to do a snowy build with a thatched roof one day soon. I think that would be really fun and very cute. I also just want to take a moment to appreciate the fact that the lot actually lines up nicely with the pathway onto this particular lot. It does get covered by the snow at this point, but a lot of the time there's a gap between the edge of the section you can't edit and then the lot that you can edit, or it just doesn't line up nice and squarely, so you can't put your own terrain paint on and it look nice. But this one was perfect. Not that it mattered, because we are now in the winter, as you can see, and I end up using the Riviera Retreat rocks here. There are some in base game which are just individual rocks rather than clusters, so if you didn't have a Riviera Retreat you could probably replace those and still have them. But I liked the fact that they didn't have snow on them. It would have been nice to have a little bit of snow so it didn't look too out of place, but I just thought it would be nice to have a visible walkway to the back garden area. I don't actually put much in the back garden either, it's mostly for decoration. But when it's this cold outside, you probably wouldn't want to be in there much, and there's not a huge amount of space anyway. I was more concerned with having the lot central, so that walkway when it's not in winter is lined up with the lot. In summer as well, you'd probably be able to fit in a little chicken coop if you wanted, so that is always an option, but I didn't include one here. It felt a bit mean adding chickens into the snow, so I left those out. I am also using the new bushes that we got from the cozy event that's going on at the moment. At least as of doing this voiceover, it's going on. I don't know when it finishes, I can't remember, but I thought they were quite fun. They've got little lights on them. It's kind of hard to see in the daytime, but they do have little twinkling lights. For the landscaping, I'm mostly using Debug from Cottage Living, but I did discover that the orangey tall plant, I don't know what kind it's meant to be, it kind of looks like a foxglove, at least the shape of it does, but it doesn't exist in winter. It's completely invisible. I kept trying to put it down and was wondering what was happening, but whenever you drag it out of the catalogue, it just vanishes. So it totally dies in winter, which is kind of a shame because I think it's a really nice plant. But I did go ahead and add a few bushes. I think some of them came from base game as well. And then the vines that I've added onto the exterior of the house, they're all from Cottage Living Debug again, but they're sort of the trellisy items instead. I think it's wisteria. It looks really cute, and in summer it will be purple, so it's a nice extra accent colour, but in the winter it is a little bit dead and kind of brown. Pretty much like all of the plants in winter in The Sims 4. I have discovered that I find it a little bit difficult to landscape in winter because it's kind of hard to see what's going on, and then depending on where you put the items, if they're slightly undercover, they won't end up having snow on top of them. So if you're trying to go for the snowy look, and some of the bushes keep having snow disappear off the top of them, it's actually really annoying. So it's not my favourite time of year to landscape, but I suppose when it's snowing, it's not really the gardening season in general, and there's clearly a reason for that. So you can see the back garden is taking more shape now. I just added in a few more of those Riviera Retreat stepping stones, and they fill up most of the garden, and partly because of that, that's why I didn't really add much in here. I do just add a few more low-lying flowers underneath these bushes to make it look a bit more full, but otherwise, from memory, I think I just went through and added in some planter boxes, so your Sims can grow. I think there's a few mushrooms that grow only in winter in Henford on Bagley, and then the base game one might also grow only in winter. I can't quite remember, but there are plants that your Sims can grow outside, so they don't all need to be undercover. And since it is in Henford on Bagley, it seemed fitting for there to be some kind of things like that. And the little bike that I put in the front area of the back garden, that's actually an early purchase reward for Cottage Living, so it was quite a while ago now. It's kind of a shame that it's locked behind having purchased the pack early, because if you don't have it now, there is no way to get it unless you can get mods, but of course that's only applicable to PC players. So that's kind of a shame. But I think it's a very cute bike, so I wanted to include it here. It just has a tiny little basket of flowers on the front of it, and I picked it in the red swatch to go with everything else. I think this pack was one of the first ones that I really got into when it first came out, and obviously I got it around when it first came out. It was just so much fun. I'm such a farming sim player, so being able to farm in The Sims was just fantastic. I loved that announcement. So it's definitely a pack I recommend if you don't already have it. I think it's really fun to build with and has so much great gameplay. The gameplay is very involved though, so you've really got to want to farm in The Sims 4. So if you are buying it for gameplay, make sure that is something you do enjoy. But you probably did just see me put the lights around the lot then, and at night time you could see the little twinkling lights on the bushes were a lot more visible, so it is very cute when it's at night time. And then it looks like in the back garden, the only real thing that we added in here was this little reindeer item that's from the Seasons pack, I think. There is also the holiday pack, which is free and has a few Christmassy items in there, so be sure to grab that if you haven't already. But otherwise, I thought this little log storage was quite seasonal and suitable for this house, since I do end up including a fireplace in there as well. And I've also added on the little lights around the fencing and on the outside of the build. I can't remember when I did that now, I just didn't notice it happen at all. But I think they're really cute. I went for the white ones, mostly because the icicles that I've got on the front of the house, they only really came in white, and then I wanted the ones around the fencing to match. So if you wanted to change it out for something a bit more colourful, you would be able to. I do keep the Seasons box in the build, so you can change that whenever you'd like. But with that very simple garden, we are now into the main building, and I did realise after I pretty much finished furnishing the living room that I completely forgot about a dining room. So before you start panicking, I did fix it. Essentially, there's a little nook in the living room which would make complete sense to have a dining table there, but I end up putting a Christmas tree in its place. So I didn't really have room for a dining room for a while, but I figured it out in the end. I put it in the kitchen. I even included the footage of me playtesting it because it really didn't look like it was usable, but I promise it is, and it's definitely there. So it's a fully functional house. But for now, until we get to there, we are just decorating the kitchen area. I really liked having this big C-shaped kitchen. I thought it was just really luxurious to have such a big area to do your cooking, and because there's lots of like canning within cottage living, again I just wanted to have quite a big focus on that. I did also use the counters from that pack, but I don't really like the overhead cabinets because they have these little curtains on them and the colours just don't really match the vibe that I'm going for, so I ended up just including a couple of pieces of that which didn't have the curtain on, as you can see, and then added some shelves above the window just to continue on the kind of overhead storage vibe that I was going for. And thanks to the recent Sims 4 free update, we also have this little hot chocolate station. So I was really excited to be able to include this. I definitely made sure to add that in. I am also just trying to figure out how many or what different appliances I want in here. I felt like Home Chef Hustle, again, as I mentioned, cooking's quite a big part of cottage living, so Home Chef Hustle just felt perfect for it. So I included the stand mixer and the waffle maker too. It does still make me laugh though that we have a waffle maker in The Sims 4. We even have an ice cream maker if you've got the Cool Kitchen stuff pack, but we don't have a toaster because apparently toasters are far less common or useful than an ice cream maker is. I think I'd definitely pick waffles over toast though, so I'm not mad about that part. But now we are just adding in a bit more clutter because the camping pack, I forgot what it's called now, is it Outdoor Retreat, comes with this little item that is very hot chocolate inspired. It's got a cute little squirrel caddy as well. I did add that in here. It isn't functional though, but since we've got that hot chocolate kettle piece now, which is a functional item, it felt like a fun idea to include that as a little bit more storage for your Sims to have cozy, nice, tasty drinks. But now we're in the living room, and I opted for this sofa from the Generations pack, Growing Together, that's the one. And I also used just this little base game armchair. I thought it matched quite well, and just to tie it into the sofa, I included this cushion, which is now a base game, so happy days, we all have access to that. Because there's so much red in this build as well, I did try and keep a lot of the other colours pale, so I picked this wallpaper from the Magic Realm pack, and then as I mentioned earlier, this little nook is where I put the Christmas tree, and I kind of envisioned that this is where the dining table would normally be, but for the purposes of Christmas and having a beautiful tree in the living room, they moved it into the kitchen. So the dining table, which I'll add a bit later on, does end up in the kitchen, and it is fully functional. And in this corner as well, I thought having this little cross-stitch kit would be really cute. It's not actually functional there, believe it or not. I moved it around so many times, but it being on that side of the armchair meant that it was completely untouchable by the Sims. Everything was in the way. Even the fireplace got in the way somehow, and it's miles away. I don't understand sometimes the way that Sims work with the hitboxes on these items. So I think I've mentioned this before, but you should definitely playtest your builds if you're using move objects, because the weirdest things will become an issue. But I think I just ended up moving the cross-stitch kit upstairs into the bedroom, and that one is accessible by your Sims, despite it looking like it's even more difficult for them to reach. And I can't remember what I swapped out. It might have just been a small little book or something on the side table here, but I don't think it was functional. It was just another piece of clutter to make the room look full, and then your Sims don't have to complain about the fireplace being in the way, despite it being on the other side of the armchair. At this point though, the room is looking really Christmassy and I love it. I think these curtains from the Cats and Dogs expansion tied in really nicely with all of the gold accents from the seasons stuff. And I love these little jars with the Christmas trees, so I dotted those around in a few different places and made sure to include some Christmas cards here and there, since again I thought that was quite realistic to include in a build. I was also a bit stuck with what to do in the corner by the stairs as well, but I ended up just adding a bit of a side table here and included the music box from the Life and Death pack and then just a few little pieces of holly. I think I changed them a bit later though to the holly with candles just to add a bit more fun light into the space. And there should be another window next to that. It got deleted at some point, I'm not sure when, but I originally put a picture there from Cottage Living, just thinking, oh, this will be a nice place for this little picture. And then I realised that, hang on, I used to have a window there, where did it go? So I do go back and switch that out. In decorating this house as well, I kind of discovered that I'm not very good at decorating small spaces. I like cluttering too much, and even the fireplace was not quite usable by the Sims there, so I had to move that around in playtesting. Again, it's perfectly usable in the version on the gallery. And now I am playtesting the kitchen. As I mentioned, it really just doesn't look to me like your Sims would be able to use everything, but they can use everything in the kitchen. They can sit on the dining table, they can access all the appliances perfectly fine. So it seems like a good place to put the dining table when the Christmas tree is up. So if you did download the build, which you can on the Sims 4 gallery, just using my EA ID, AWayfaringFrog, then you can scooch that back into the little nook in the living room if you wanted more space in the kitchen during the rest of the year. But now we have finished with the downstairs area and we're just moving upstairs. There are technically 2 bedrooms here, but I ended up making one of them into more of an office space. I kind of envisioned maybe an older couple lived here or just a single Sim, so I wasn't too worried about having an extra bedroom. And the main bedroom will be able to house 2 Sims. It's not even scooched up against a wall, so your Sims can access both sides of the bed, which I think is quite helpful for a gameplay perspective. And the bathroom, I ended up using the same flooring and wallpaper as what I had in the kitchen, just for a bit of continuity, and it's my favourite wallpaper. It's been a while since I used this one from Home Chef Hustle, so I feel like I can get away with using it again. It's been a while and I missed it, so I did include it here. And I included quite a few of the more country style assets. So Horse Ranch was a great help here. That's where the little shelving unit with the towels on is from. And then a couple of base game assets, and the sink is from Cottage Living, I believe. So it is a very Cottage Living heavy build. I find that I use a lot of that pack whenever I'm building anything in Henford on Bagley. It's so perfect. You really have almost everything that you need in that pack to be able to fully furnish a house and it not look base game. So I do really love that one. But now we're jumping into the bedroom. I was so unsure on the colour scheme here for ages. I really wanted to try and use this very mustardy coloured rug for a while because the red in it felt super Christmassy, but then it felt kind of too autumnal. And then I decided I just didn't like that colour, so I switched it around a lot. I even trialed this red bed from Cottage Living, but it felt too pinky red rather than the nice deep red from the armchair that I've got in the corner, which that one's from Horse Ranch. So it does switch about a little bit, but I think it ends up looking really nice, so hopefully you agree. The little stand with the clothing that's visible, that's also where I end up putting the cross-stitch kit. so it just goes down next to those little wicker baskets, and your Sims can access it. I didn't even have to move the armchair, but will they access it where it's downstairs and completely available and easy to get to? No, they won't. So don't know why that is. And then on this other wall by the bed, I ended up including a couple of shelves from the cats and dogs pack. I found the wood swatches in that really tied in with all of the other wood swatches from Cottage Living and Horse Ranch that I was using, so they were great for a few accent pieces here and there. And then I think this is finally where I've picked the bed swatch. I thought this yellowy tartan, or gingham I think it might be called, was quite fun, and I've never used that one before, so I liked being able to include it here. I don't actually use that bed very often. I find a lot of the swatches are a bit too much. There's a red version of this gingham as well, and it's just so dark. It doesn't feel very cottagecore, so I didn't want to go for that one. I did include a few items from Nifty Knitting though. I figured that the Sims who would live here would be very crafty, so I wanted to include a lot of those. I don't know if it was just an elderly couple who like to make things for their grandchildren or something like that, but I went ahead and included a lot of that around. I also faffed around with this shelving unit in the bedroom so much, so I cut a lot of that out. I kept moving things around, so I didn't want to put you through that, but it just has some books and a few little bits of clutter, including some of the knitted items from Nifty Knitting as well. And of course, since it's a Christmas house, I made sure to bring in a lot of the garlands here as well. I wanted every room to feel like it was a little bit Christmassy, so I think there is something in everything, even in the bathroom. I'm not sure how realistic that is. I definitely don't tend to decorate my bathroom for Christmas. I'd love to, but I don't. I also actually don't have any Christmas decorations up at all at the moment. It's very sad, but I'm actually moving next month, and the thought of having to put away all of the decorations as well as the entire house just felt like way too much, so I didn't really feel like decorating, which is a sad thing, but I'm going somewhere else for Christmas, so at least I'll be able to live vicariously through everyone else's decorations instead. But we are now coming to the end of the speed build portion of the video, as we're just decorating this little office space where I included an easel as well, so another little crafty item for your Sims to use. This was also another room where I discovered there were issues with gameplay. When I was playtesting, they couldn't get past this cupboard that I've got next to the door, so I ended up just moving that more into the corner and putting the wall shelf that's also from this artist studio kit. I just switched those two around and then it was fine. So definitely was important to playtest this one, it seemed. I really am bad at small builds. I'm just too obsessive about adding loads of clutter in and including as much as possible in a room. And when there's no space to put it all, it just becomes unplayable. But don't worry, it is fixed on the version on the gallery, I promise. You can see in the screenshots that everything that moved was only a little bit of scooching here and there. That is pretty much the end of the video. If you have been enjoying it, be sure to give it a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and remember to enable notifications so you'll know when I next upload a video. I am still planning to get one out between Christmas and New Year, so regardless of whether or not you celebrate, I'm planning to upload another video. It will be a kind of wintry themed one. I was thinking of doing something inspired by werewolves, like Arctic wolves. So I hope you look forward to that. I think it's really fun to do more rundown builds once in a while, and it's been a pretty long time since I did a full build that's werewolf themed, and I hope you look forward to seeing it. But for now, I'll leave you to it. I hope you have a really great rest of your day, and if you celebrate, have a very Merry Christmas. Thanks so much for watching. Bye now!